inherited a cabin from his grandfather in rural Montana. Small place, one bedroom, a wood stove, no internet. His grandfather had lived there for decades and loved it. When he passed, Ryan decided to spend a month there alone, just to decompress. He'd been going through a rough divorce, work stress, the whole thing. The cabin felt like the right escape. He arrived on a Friday evening in late September. The drive-in was long. The last 15 miles were unpaved road through dense forest. When he finally pulled up to the cabin, the sun was already low. He unloaded his truck, got the stove going, made dinner. That first night was peaceful, still, the kind of quiet that city people aren't used to. He slept better than he had in months. The first week passed without incident. He hiked during the day, read at night, barely thought about his problems back home. He started to understand why his grandfather had loved it so much. The forest felt ancient and calm, safe even. That changed on day 8. He was sitting on the porch after dinner, watching the tree line, when he noticed the deer were gone. That sounds like a small thing, but all week, every evening, there had been deer at the edge of the woods. 3, sometimes 4 of them grazing in the small meadow between the cabin and the trees. He'd started looking forward to seeing them. That evening, nothing. The meadow was empty. The forest behind it was completely still. Ryan told himself it was nothing. Deer move around. He went inside. That night, around 2 a.m., he woke up to a sound. It took him a moment to place it. Something moving through the brush outside. Heavy, deliberate, not like a deer or a raccoon. Something bigger. It circled the cabin slowly. He lay in bed listening to it move. Crunch, pause, crunch, pause, all the way around the outside wall. Then it stopped, right outside his bedroom window. Ryan didn't move. He barely breathed. After what felt like 10 minutes, he heard it move away, back into the trees. He got up and checked the locks on every door and window. He didn't sleep again until sunrise. In the morning, he went outside and looked. There were tracks in the soft ground along the side of the cabin. Large ones. He wasn't a tracker, but they looked wrong to him. Too wide for a bear, spaced in a way that didn't match any animal he could identify. He photographed them with his phone and told himself he'd look them up when he got signal in town. He drove 40 minutes to the nearest town that afternoon. The signal came back slowly. He uploaded the photos. He showed them to a woman at the general store who'd lived in that area her whole life. She looked at them for a long moment without saying anything. Then she asked him which cabin he was staying at. When he told her his grandfather's name, the road it was on, she handed his phone back and said, very quietly, "That cabin's had trouble before. Most people don't stay past 2 weeks." He asked her what kind of trouble. She just shook her head. "The kind you don't want to meet." Ryan drove back telling himself she was just a superstitious local. He had 12 more days. He wasn't going to let an old woman spook him. That was a mistake. 4 nights later, it came back. But this time it wasn't just sounds. Ryan was reading by the wood stove when every animal sound outside, the crickets, the owls, everything, cut off at exactly the same moment. Total silence. He'd read about that phenomenon before. Predator silence, some people call it. When every creature in an area goes quiet because something dangerous is nearby. He set his book down, looked at the window. In the darkness outside the glass, something was looking back. He couldn't see it clearly. The glass reflected the firelight too much, but there was a shape. Tall, too tall, standing just beyond the porch railing, perfectly still, face pressed close to the glass. He could make out two pale points where the eyes should be. Ryan grabbed the shotgun his grandfather had left in the closet. He'd never fired one before. He racked it anyway and pointed it at the window. His hands were shaking. He shouted, told it to get away, told it he was armed. His voice cracked when he said it. The shape didn't move for a long moment. Then it stepped back, slowly, deliberately, like it wasn't afraid of him at all, like it was choosing to leave. It merged back into the darkness between the trees and was gone. Ryan packed a bag, got in his truck, and drove out that same night. He didn't stop until he hit the interstate 3 hours away. He left everything else behind. His food, his grandfather's books, his clothes. He never went back. 6 months later, Ryan tried to sell the cabin. The real estate agent drove out to assess it. She called Ryan the same day, confused. She said the front door was standing wide open. The wood stove had been moved from its position, and on the wall above where it used to sit, scratched deep into the wood, were 4 words. "I was here first." The cabin sold for half its value. The buyers were told it was a fixer-upper. Ryan never told them what the real estate agent found. He tries not to think about what was living in those woods, and he tries not to wonder if it's still there. Sarah and Tom were experienced hikers in their late 30s. They hiked 2 or 3 weekends a month all over the Pacific Northwest. They knew how to read maps, how to use a compass, how to stay found in the backcountry. They were careful people, prepared people. In August, they set out on a 4-day loop through a wilderness area in Oregon they'd done once before, 3 years earlier. The same trail, same campsites. They knew it well. They started at the main trailhead on a Thursday morning, planning to complete the loop by Sunday afternoon. The first day was perfect. Weather was clear, the trail was quiet. They made good time. They set up camp that night beside a creek they remembered from the last trip. Everything felt familiar, easy, right. On the second morning, about 4 miles in, they found the trail. It branched off to the left, unmarked. No sign, no marker, no indication on their topo map. The path was narrow but clearly defined, worn down by feet, not animals. Someone had walked it many times. The trees along it were spaced in a way that felt almost deliberate, like a corridor. The undergrowth on both sides was untouched. Whatever used this trail stayed on it. Tom wanted to check it out. Sarah was uneasy but agreed to go a short distance, just far enough to see where it led. They told each other they'd turn back in 10 minutes if nothing was there. They walked for 15 minutes. The trail wound steadily deeper away from their route. They should have turned back. They both knew it. But the path kept looking like it was about to open up into something, a clearing, a viewpoint, something. And they kept going just a little further. After 20 minutes, they reached it. A clearing, and in the center of the clearing was a structure. It wasn't a cabin or a shelter. It was something older. Stone walls, partially collapsed, covered in moss and lichen. The roof was long gone. The doorway was an arch, and above the arch, carved into the stone, were markings. Not letters. Not any alphabet Sarah or Tom recognized. Symbols, geometric, repeating, worn smooth by time. Inside the structure, the ground was clean. No leaves, no debris. just bare earth, flat and packed hard. In the center, a circle had been etched into the ground, deeply, deliberately, with lines extending outward from it like rays, or like something that had been contained inside it reaching out. Tom photographed everything. Sarah wanted to leave immediately. She told him later that she felt physically ill the moment she stepped through the doorway. A sudden wave of nausea and the overwhelming feeling that they were intruding somewhere they absolutely should not be. Tom spent 5 minutes inside. When he came back out, he was pale. He said he'd heard something while he was in there. A low sound, rhythmic, subsonic, not quite a hum, more like breathing, coming from below the ground. They left immediately. They didn't speak for almost an hour. They got back to the main trail and kept moving. They made camp early that night, neither of them wanting to be out after dark. Tom pulled out his camera to look at the photos he'd taken at the structure. There were none. Every photo from the clearing was completely black, not corrupted, just black, as if the camera had been covered, as if nothing in that clearing had been willing to be seen. That night, Sarah woke at 3 a.m. to the sound of footsteps outside the tent. Steady, deliberate, very close. She reached for Tom. He was awake already, lying perfectly still, listening. The footsteps circled their tent once, slowly, then stopped just outside the door. In the silence that followed, they heard the same sound Tom had described from inside the structure. That low, rhythmic, breathing thing, right outside the tent door, inches away. Neither of them moved, neither of them spoke. After several minutes, it faded. The footsteps retreated. The forest sounds came back gradually. Crickets, wind. Like a switch had been flipped. They hiked out the next morning, cutting their trip short by a full day. When they got home, Tom spent weeks trying to find any record of that structure. Historical maps, forestry records, anything. Nothing. The wilderness area had been surveyed multiple times. No structure was ever documented. He emailed the ranger station and described what they'd found and where. The ranger wrote back quickly. He said no structure matching that description was on record. He then asked Tom something that has stayed with both of them ever since. He asked, "Did you go inside it?" Tom wrote back and said yes. The ranger never replied. They have never found that trail again. They've tried twice. The branch in the path is simply not there anymore. Like it opened once for them and then closed. Sarah doesn't think about what was breathing beneath that stone floor. She says the not knowing is the only thing that lets her sleep. Jess was 24 when this happened. She and 4 close friends, 2 couples and herself, planned a 5-day backpacking trip in a remote area of Colorado. They'd all hiked before, but this was their most ambitious trip. 40 miles, high altitude, minimal traffic. They'd been planning it for a year. They were excited. They started the trail on a Monday morning. The group was in good spirits. The first 2 days were everything they'd hoped for. Stunning scenery, good weather, great campfire conversations at night. By Wednesday, they were deep in the backcountry, miles from the nearest road. The plan was to summit a peak Thursday morning and begin the return leg Thursday afternoon. Wednesday night was when it started to go wrong. They'd made camp by a lake at around 11,000 feet. Clear skies, cold, beautiful. They ate dinner and sat around the fire later than usual, enjoying the stars. Around 11 p.m., one of the group, A man named Daniel said he was going to step away from the fire to use the bathroom. He took his flashlight and walked maybe 50 feet into the trees. He didn't come back. After 5 minutes, they called out to him. No response. 2 of the others went to look. They found his flashlight on the ground, still on, pointing up at the sky. No sign of Daniel, no sounds, no trail leading away from where the flashlight lay. They spent an hour searching with all their lights. Nothing. They told themselves he'd gotten turned around in the dark, that he'd come back when the sun rose. They didn't sleep. They sat by the fire and waited. Daniel never came back. At first light, they made the decision to abandon the summit and hike out to get help. Jess, her friend Maya, and the 2 others, couple named Cole and Bree, packed up camp and started moving. They were shaken but focused. They needed to get out and report Daniel missing. They'd been hiking about 2 hours when Cole stopped. He said he could hear something off the trail to the right. The others heard it too, a sound like someone walking through brush. Rhythmic, paced, keeping up with them. They moved faster. The sound moved faster. They stopped. It stopped. Cole said he was going to look. Jess grabbed his arm. She said, "Don't." Something about the way the sound had moved, too perfectly mirroring their pace, felt wrong. Not like an animal tracking them. Like something that understood what they were doing and was responding to it. Cole pulled free and stepped off the trail anyway. He walked maybe 10 feet into the trees. He turned back once to look at them. Then he took one more step and was simply gone. Not running, not falling, just gone. As if the forest had swallowed him between one step and the next. Bree screamed. Then Bree ran. Back up the trail, the wrong direction. Back toward the lake. Jess and Maya chased her, screaming for her to stop. She was faster than both of them. They rounded a bend and she wasn't there. The trail was empty. She had vanished too. Jess and Maya held each other on the trail and didn't move for several minutes. Jess said the only thing keeping her from falling apart was Maya's hand in hers. They made a decision. Stay together, stay on the trail, keep moving, do not stop for any reason. They hiked in near silence for 2 hours. Nothing followed them. No sounds from the trees. The forest felt empty and heavy at the same time, like the pressure before a storm. They didn't talk about the others. They couldn't. An hour from the trailhead, Maya said she needed to stop for a moment. Just a moment. Her boot had come loose. She sat on a log and began tightening the laces. Jess stood 2 feet away, watching the trees. She looked down at Maya for 1 second to hand her a water bottle. When she looked up, Maya was gone. The log was empty. The laces on Maya's boot, just the boot sitting on the log, were still being tied, like she had been there a half-second before, like she had been taken mid-motion. Jess ran. She ran without stopping for an hour. She came out at the trailhead screaming. Search and rescue went in for 6 days. They found nothing. No Daniel, no Cole, no Bree, no Maya. No signs of struggle, no remains. 4 people vanished from a well-documented trail in clear conditions, without a single trace. Jess gave her account to investigators multiple times. It never changed. She passed 2 polygraph tests. She was never considered a suspect because there was no evidence of any crime. There was simply no evidence of anything. The case remains open. In the years since, Jess has tried to understand what happened. She's read every account of wilderness disappearances she can find. She says she's found patterns, the way victims always separate from the group, always move off trail, always seem drawn by something they can't explain. She says she thinks something in those woods was selecting them, one by one, testing the group, finding the gaps. She says she survived because she ran. She says she didn't look back. She says she thinks if she had looked back, she would have seen something. And then she would have stopped running. She never would have stopped.